and France controlled the western half of Germany as well as half of the capital city of Berlin. Russia controlled the east, where my family lived. At first, it didn't matter much to us. Most people shopped, worked, or visited just as they always had, and crossing the border wasn't more difficult than crossing a street. But Russia's promises of a better life under communism weren't happening. As the West repaired its war damages, ours remained like unhealed scars. Their shops were full, and ours constantly faced shortages. They were growing stronger while we leaned on Russia like a crutch, pretending to be every bit as strong. People had noticed that widening gap between our countries. As more East Berliners left each week, those of us who remained whispered in dark corners about what if we left too. I heard them. I watched as neighbors and friends made their plans to go. My father was one of those who whispered. Our family would have gone to the West months ago if Mama had let us. She was just as stubborn as he was, I suppose. They argued about it all the time. In whispers, of course. Berlin was a symphony of whispers. But this was also our home, and Mama couldn't imagine leaving any more than she could think about ceasing to be German. But choose to go now, Herr Kraus said, or soon you will have no choice. You want us to leave the life we built here? Mama asked. My widowed mother lives just outside the city. She needs my help. Should I leave her too? Would she ask you to stay here? Herr Kraus asked. Where it is dangerous to speak or to act or to even think? It is only dangerous because you fill my husband's head with ideas he should not have. Then Mama lowered her voice. This was not the kind of conversation she wanted our neighbors to hear. At least not the neighbors who might report us to the Stasi. She turned her attention to Papa. Besides, our children are in school, and you have a secure job. They have schools in the West, Papa told her. We can find a new home and a new job. The refugee camps in the West are crowded and don't have enough food to go around. Mama shook her head. After the war, she had gone for months without enough food to eat. Thousands of Germans died of hunger back then, and I knew that memory was never far away from her. We have no family or friends there to take us in, and I won't bring my children into a camp. We're not beggars. I'd rather beg there than live here. I had left my hiding place and spoke even before I remembered I was supposed to be in my room. But it was too late to go back, so I added, Please, Mama, please listen to them. You should be in bed, Gerda. What if Aldous goes to the West for a night or two? Herr Kraus suggested. He can find you a new apartment and ask about jobs. Papa's voice brightened. I could leave tonight and be back on Sunday. We don't have to decide anything for sure until I come back. Mama was silent for a moment, and then she said, Bring one of the children with you so the employers know you have a family to support. I'll go, Fritz offered. I knew he would. Last week, Fritz told me he wanted to buy some of the West's magazines and come back here to sell them to his friends. You need to help your mother with packing, and Gerda is too young, Papa said. I'll take Dominic. Dominic came around the corner now and smiling as if he had won some sort of prize. I glared at him, but the truth was, I thought he had won a prize too. Why couldn't Papa bring me instead? I asked Papa that very question when he tucked me into bed that night. He smiled and pulled the blankets up to my chin. It's going to be difficult getting across the border in the darkness, he said. Dominic and I will find the way, then return and show you in only a few nights. What if you don't come back? His eyes became sad, though the smile remained. I must come back, because nobody else knows our bedtime song. He got to his feet and started dancing to my favorite song, The Farmer in March, which described all the chores a farmer must do to get his crops ready. They have a lot to do in the home and the garden, he sang as he began pantomiming the words. They dig and they rake and they sing a song. I sang along with him until the very last line, and then he kissed my cheek, wished me good sleep, and closed the door of my room, saying, I'll see you on Sunday, Gerda. No, he wouldn't, because 2 days later our city would be surrounded with an endless fence of wire and thorns. As I was about to learn, he would never come back. Eventually, Mama dried her tears and told me and Fritz to go get dressed, and we ought to see the fence for ourselves. It was still very early in the morning, and large bulldozers could be heard, already tearing down homes or 100-year-old trees that were in the way of the fence. Along with most of the people in the neighborhood, I stood on the road facing the guns that faced us. Mama held one of my hands and Fritz held the other. No one around me cried, and not even the strongest men fought back. Why didn't we? I looked around, waiting for someone to rush at the officers in a cry for freedom. Then others would join in the fight, and we would overpower the guards and show them we refused to be held in here like criminals. Or until enough of us were shot, the guards looked prepared to do that if necessary. Probably everyone here already understood that because, like me, they only stood and watched. Maybe we were all too empty for tears and too horrified for words. When I asked Fritz when Papa and Dominic would be able to come home, he only knelt beside me and shook his head. Quietly, he whispered, "Papa was part of the Renaissance, Gerda. Or they think he was. As long as that fence is up, they will never let him come home. And he won't send Dominic back to this place. But don't worry, I'm sure it can't last long." The people around me had already given a name to this day. Barbed Wire Sunday. The day that divided a city and eventually a country. Worst of all, the day that divided my family. The sun warmed my back and it slowly rose in the east, and I shivered against it. This early morning light had not ended the long, dark night. No. For us, the dark night had only begun. All right, so my friends, that is chapter 2. And that ends my little session with you guys for the day. So it was nice to talk to you guys, to read a book. Finally, it's been a little bit of a while for me since I've read a book out loud that's not part of our curriculum, which I look forward to getting back to. Don't forget our word of the day 3 times today. Adjacent, next to, close to. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope you guys are getting out and enjoying the awesome weather outside, and I will talk to you tomorrow.